The United States, Qatar and Egypt have called on the State of Israel and Hamas to resume talks in order to finalize a ceasefire and a hostage release deal in the Gaza Strip. In a joint statement, the three nations have urged the State of Israel and Hamas to resume urgent discussions on the 15th of August in Doha or in Cairo. The leaders of the three countries have also offered to present a final bridging proposal to resolve the remaining issues. The statement reads, and I quote, "There is no further time to waste, nor are there excuses from any party for any further delay. The three of the United States and our teams have worked tirelessly over many months to forge a framework agreement that is now on the table with only the details of implementation left to conclude. It is time to release all hostages, begin the ceasefire and to implement this agreement." Now, responding to the offer, the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's office has said that Israel will dispatch a delegation to attend the negotiations and will travel wherever the meeting takes place to finalize the details for implementing the framework agreement. Hamas is yet to respond to the proposal, and the announcement of talks has come after Hamas named Yahya Sinwar as its new chief. Meanwhile, the United States Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and discussed the steps that Washington has taken in West Asia to defend the state of Israel and a Gaza ceasefire, further outlining the arrival of the US F-22 Raptors that will not only defend Israel but will also protect the American forces in the region. Now, on the ground in the Gaza Strip, the Israeli forces have continued with their airstrikes across the occupied Palestinian territory. The State of Israel has bombed two schools that housed the displaced people in the Gaza Strip, killing at least about 15 Palestinians and injuring 30 others. However, the Israeli military says that it has struck a Hamas command and control center and has accused Hamas of exploiting civilians and civilian properties for military purpose. Meanwhile, thousands of Palestinians in eastern Khan Yunis were forced to again flee from the place that they had sought refuge in after the Israeli military ordered yet another mass evacuation. Now, the order has covered large areas in and around Khan Yunis, which is Gaza's largest city.
I've been displaced from Bain Sahela about 6 times. Now I have only my kids with me. Nothing else. The house is gone. Everything is gone. Nothing is left. We have no one but God, which is better than everything.
Now, the Israeli army has also released footage of what it says were airstrikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. The IDF said in a statement that they struck a launcher, a militant squad, and military buildings in southern Lebanon that belong to the Hezbollah. Now, all this has, of course, come a day after Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah pledged strong and effective response to the killing of the Hezbollah military commander Fuad Shukr, emphasizing that Hezbollah will act alone or with its regional allies if it has to. On the other hand, Yemen's Houthis have said that they will coordinate with other members of the Axis of Resistance in any joint operation, further outlining that any decision to respond to the Israeli attacks will be made by the Axis as a whole.
Our operations towards the occupied Palestine to target the Israeli enemy, our operations in the seas, the inevitable and upcoming response operation, as well as the coordination with the Axis in any joint operations. The decision to respond is a decision by everyone at the level of the entire Axis and at the level of each front individually.
Meanwhile, in a lengthy interview to the Time magazine, the sitting Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has apologized for the Israeli security failures that allowed the Hamas-led attack on the 7th of October last year, and has further said that his own role in the security failure should be investigated following the end of the war. All right, now to give us more perspective on this, we're being joined by Ms. Ruthie Blum, who's a former advisor at the office of Prime Minister Netanyahu. She's also an author and an award-winning columnist, and she's joining us live from Tel Aviv. Now, Ms. Blum, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us here in WION. Now, what we are looking at are again another round of potential negotiations where the United States and Qatar and Egypt have said that there is an agreement framework and it is now up to Israel and Hamas to come together and to sign this agreement and implement a ceasefire deal along with the release of hostages. Do you think at this moment the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is willing to sign a ceasefire deal and also to secure the release of the hostages?
Okay, first of all, before I start, I'd like to thank you for having me again. Second, I'd like to make one correction to your description of Gaza, which you called occupied Palestinian territory. Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip in 2005, evacuating every last Jew from there. It is not occupied territory. So that's just...
Let me just interject there. I get the point that you're making, but this is something that a lot of experts have commented because Israel controls everything about Gaza. It is still described as occupied Palestinian territory. This is how it is internationally described. But that aside, the question that I want to ask you is this.
Okay.
Can Netanyahu at this moment go ahead and agree to a ceasefire settlement and also secure the release of the hostages? The reason why I ask this question is there are a number of military leaders within the state of Israel who are saying that Netanyahu is the one who has stayed away from agreeing to a ceasefire deal.
Okay, so first of all, of course he can. Second of all, not all the security chiefs in Israel say that. In fact,
it has
very
been reported
recently
in the Israeli media.
I am aware that it's been reported, and I know there are certain security chiefs who said that. What has not been reported sufficiently is that the chief negotiator, security chief, who's been going to the negotiations, said that he has to admit that this is not Netanyahu's fault, that there's no deal. Second of all, Netanyahu would be the first to sign such a deal, if it involved a return of all the hostages, which Hamas has refused to do. And second, if Israel retains the right to defeat Hamas or to go back in and proceed with the war to defeat the terrorists. Now, this is the main sticking point, that it's not just Netanyahu. The majority of Israelis cannot agree to this because A, it will just endanger the rest of us, and B, it would endanger half of the hostages that remain in Gaza.
Right. My next quick question to you is a lot of political analysts are saying that Netanyahu has tried to extend this war by as much as possible because the minute this war ends, that would also mean that Netanyahu may end up losing his job and could be prosecuted for charges of corruption that he faces. Is that an assessment that you agree with?
Oh, I disagree with that assessment totally. Number one, Netanyahu has been on trial for 3 years. This war has nothing to do with that trial, nor would the end of the war have anything to do with that trial. That's number one. Number two, Netanyahu, if he really wanted to preserve his seat, as everyone's saying, and if he really wanted to become the darling of the media, all he would have to do is capitulate to Hamas, end the war, have all the opposition parties then praise him, join the government, and then he certainly would not lose his seat. In fact, his remaining firm on these sticking points makes him very unpopular with the press and with the oppositionists.
All right. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Ms. Ruthie Bloom, and getting us your perspective there.
And thank you for having me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.